The Origins of C++, Richard Feldman. Hello, I'm Chris Tennis. I'm a KMP developer. Tech Support said they're coming out Tuesday. We will get rid of that thing, guys. Okay, the Origins of C++, Richard Feldman. I haven't previewed this. Go give DevTools Made Simple, like and subscribe, and let's see what you guys say.
So this is Bjarne Stroustrup. Anyone know who this gentleman is?
Yes, we all know who he is.
Okay. Yes. So I have a spoiler right here on the slide. He's the creator of C++. But he's also the creator of another programming language, which he created before C++. Anyone know what that was called?
C with objects.
C with classes.
Ah, dang it. But it's so he should have called it class-oriented programming, right? Instead of object-oriented. But okay, let's keep going.
Language had a very specific goal. It was to have C, but with classes.
Ooh. And the reason why he did this is because he was hired at AT&T, and they told him that he was only allowed to use C. He was like, what? They said, yeah, we only do C here. It's only C. We worship at the altar of Dennis Ritchie. So that's all it has to be. So he's like, but I've been using similar to do all my stuff that you think that came in here and showed you is great. So Bjarne's like, so I understand this part. Bjarne's like, no, man. So he's gonna hack around it. So he writes a preprocessor, and then does all the stuff he learned in Simula. It's not like he came up with it from scratch. He inherited from the Simula guys. He was using this language all the time. So he wrote a preprocessor so he could write the kinds of code, which is this class stuff, right? And put it around C. So it's like he writes it in this preprocessor language. The preprocessor runs it out, spits out C, and voila, he gets around the rule.
And actually, it's not.
I appreciate this. That's pretty classic shit. So with that attitude of like, I will follow your rule, but I'm gonna go skirt it over here. This is how Unix was developed. This is how all this stuff was developed. It was like, I will be adhering to your letter of your law, but I'm going to interpret it in a way that you probably did not expect. And now I dig that about Bjarne. But what happened afterwards?
Quite true. It was C with classes, but also like a stronger type system. He wanted to make the type checker a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Because he was doing Simula. He was just doing it. It wasn't like, I am the great Bjarne Stroustrup, and I came up with types and objects and classes. No. Somebody else did that, and he just inherited it. But he doesn't let people really know that, and I don't think Richard Feldman knows that because he's not mentioning it right now. Let's keep going.
Stronger. So he gave this interview where he kind of explains his thought process and what he was doing, and he was like, "Why did I want to add classes to C?" Well, Stroustrup,
because he had it in another language,
but actually used Simula personally.
Okay, so he does talk about it a little bit, but he doesn't. But nobody remembers this thing. This video. I watched it. It's like he tells all the secrets that people seem to have completely ignored or forgotten or not brought up. And so I give him credit for that. He does say it, but he doesn't really. But also after that, he's like, "That's the last time I'm telling anybody that. From now on, we're just talking about the thing. I'm not talking about where it came from." Everybody's like, "Oh, he must have invented it." It's like, no, man, stop.
In a previous job,
now he's a great, awesome hacker, but come on now.
When he was working at this company, where he's like, "I want to use C, and I want to use like something nicer than C for."
No, he was told. See, this is why. How do you know the history, the origins? No, he was told they have to use C. He wasn't allowed to use any other language. There was a bunch of them, dude. There was a bunch. So I understand why TT was like, no, man. No, everyone's got to standardize on C. We have to get everything done through C. We're going to write libraries. Everything's going to be standardized on C. Because we got all this hardware, all this stuff, and everybody's coming in. It's like, I want to use this. I want to use that. It's like, no, man. No. And he's like, okay, I understand that. I can't agree. And there's like, I'm going to do some more stuff. And then why is this? What is this? Is this Pascal? What is this? Here we go.
Like modeling my domain. I just want to be able to get more organized. And he was like, yeah, you know what? I thought classes were pretty good when I was using them in the Simula days. Okay. I really like that. And so I'm just going to try and bring that in. So he does. He makes C with classes. And then
preprocessor on top of C. So it did make, not a new language. It's like a preprocessor. It's sort of like a UI that lets him do this high level stuff that gets spit out into C. Okay.
He runs into a problem.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, guys.
Which is that C with classes is what he calls a medium success.
Right, because he was the only one using it. And people are like, wow, you can write that higher level stuff as opposed to writing it all in Scratch and C. Oh, that's cool. But outside of AT&T, who cares? And that was all, a whole bunch of languages like that. But so Bjarne's like, and he's about to get, if he wants this thing to go, he usually admits it in this video right here. In this video right here, he admits it's like, well, if I didn't put all this stuff in here, it was gonna kill my language, and I couldn't have that. It's kind of what he just says. Like, so I started to modify and put the kitchen sink in there, and made it publicized, and got somebody in AT&T to get on board and talk about this object-oriented thing as a way to revamp the entire development process when it was just a handy thing to put some classes in C. It's like, no, we will revamp the entire industry from the ground up. This is like AT&T's like last gasp, and Bjarne's like gasped him up. It's like, oh yeah, this, I can put that in there. I can put anything in there. I'll put everything in there. And programmers are expected to understand this big clusterfuck of basically marketing blurbs. Everybody's like, C++ is so hard. Yeah, because it's a clusterfuck, man. Come on.
And the problem with
the way it was built and the way it was designed and who put it together and how, why, it's like, oh no, it was a good little stepping stone that got us to Java, which has got to Kotlin, which is pretty nice actually. And I thought through some of this stuff and left stuff out that don't make no sense. We'll just put it in there just in case it catches on. It's like, this is C++ is just a big garbage collection of half-baked ideas, half implemented, and doesn't really fit in with anything else. Like, and you're supposed to just know that because you're supposed to follow the progression of the language as it went along, and the stuff they put in, the stuff they took out, and all the chaotic politics.
A medium success, as he explains, is that it's like, okay, so this works. I got a few people using it, a couple of users. It's pretty nice. They're happy with it. The problem is that I'm the only maintainer.
Right. So if he was gonna die, so this was common. Lots of people did this at the time. This was the normal thing. And he was like, okay, if this is either gonna take off or I'm gonna have to go someplace else. And AT&T's like, oh well. All right, we kind of got some insights here, but we can sell this thing hard. And they sold it real hard.
And there's too few of us to spread the maintenance burden around. And so I'm kind of in a pickle. Like, on the one hand, I could just say, well, I don't want to maintain this for the rest of my life. I'm just going to walk away and abandon it. But then all the people who are using it are my friends, so...
That wasn't the reason. Bjarne, come on, let's not be like the ego. He's like, oh, the humble saint that just came up with, like, no, man. He wanted to make a name for himself. And he saw how we could use the AT&T with their problems that they were having, how we could leverage it. I give the props to the player. I mean, I kind of have mixed feelings about the guy, but like how he played the game, expert.
I don't want to do that. And he's like, so what?
But I also get to call it out. So I get to call it out. But we also get to watch a master make his moves. And he's the same moves made by Sam Altman. He's making the same moves, man.
I do. He's like, well, the only other option seems to be, maybe I'll just like add more features so it'll be more.
Oh yeah, dump that, back up the dump truck, guys. We're putting every feature, anything new that comes out, we're slamming it into that thing as fast as possible. And people say, so you have to use all the features of the language? Yes, use all the features, all of them at once. For every single application, for every problem space, make sure you use them all.
More useful to more people, and then maybe it'll get popular enough that I can find some other maintainers. Okay. So he does that. He adds the additional non-object-oriented features and renames the language to C++. And it became slightly more popular. And it still maintained this whole like drop-in C replacement thing, right? That upgrade path that's really smooth.
Is really smooth? Have you just, dude, really smooth from C to C++? What are you talking about, man? Let's keep going.
But this is really interesting because, again, we have actually a pretty direct experiment of like,
well, the drop-in C replacement, it's a C, it's not a replacement. So the terms we use is actually useful. It's actually quite important here. It's not a replacement. It's a superset. It adds features that compile down to C. It's a preprocessor. It's nothing. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, people.
Object orientation caused success. And he was like, well, I added object orientation and a stronger type checker as a bonus. That was not enough to cause success. Then I added a bunch more features and success. So we have...
Well, it wasn't quite that straight, sir. There was a lot of promotion by AT&T pushing the hell out of this thing, trying to stay relevant in a changing market space when their telephony was not going to cut it anymore. And that's ironically all they have left. Is their telephone network. I mean, they were trying to be a dominant player, dominant leader at the time, And this was the leading edge stuff that people were writing, they were using to build these applications, and everyone wanted to be on board with it. So yeah, it wasn't just add a bunch of features. It was you're meeting sales objections to the letter, but not the intent. So people got excited because of all those new features in there, but were they well thought out? No. Were they well implemented? No. But did people with heroic efforts able to use parts of C++ in certain ways to make things happen? Yeah, they did. They did.
We have a very direct experiment as to like whether or not
it was better than C. So again, when you have when your hair's on fire and you don't have anything else, and someone hands you a brick, you're going to use that brick to put the fire out on your head, even though it's not optimal. And this is what C++ was, because there was nothing between. Everyone's ignoring Alan Kay. They figured that his implementation wasn't going to work because it was too slow, because the hardware was fit for purpose. It was just barely able to like do the proof of concept. Let's keep going.
Not object orientation caused the success of C++. It's like, no, because when it just had object orientation, it was called C with classes, which nobody in this room had heard of. So clearly,
I heard of it, and I understand.
Not a causal relationship there between the OO stuff and the success of C++.
No, it was all this other stuff that you failed to mention. Where, dude, maybe people just don't know about it. Maybe people don't know. Oh, let me see. Let me go back here. All right, I just hit the wrong button. Here we go. Yeah. So that was my rant. Give me a like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. And yeah, I'm not a fan of C++. I'm not a fan of Bjorn Strustrup. I'm not a fan of the overhyped stuff, but I gotta get to call it out. No one seems to be calling this stuff out. I don't know. It's pretty odd.